Well, no, they are not Hindu tradition, they are Orthodox traditions in India. Where they got it, that I don't know. The reason is that these 40 days, they say that Jesus Christ went to heaven only on the 40th day. So they say that the spirit of the dead person will be wandering around for 40 days and then on the 40th day go to heaven. Now you cannot say that's Hindu tradition. See, that's why I said that no, it's not Hindu tradition, it is Orthodox tradition, or we want to call it. This is not the biblical tradition, for sure. That I agree on that one. But I won't want to call that a Hindu tradition, because no Hindu home you will see that 40 days they are doing it, So they have traditions like that, and then on the 40th day there is a prayer and various things and there, and then after that one, അപ്പം ചത്തിരുന്നെങ്കിൽ കട്ടിലേക്ക് കിടക്കാരെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ മോന് കയറി കിടക്കാം. There's a saying that if daddy died, I could have slept on the bed, because olden days everybody does not have a cot. So most of the people will be sleeping on. So someone said that appan chattirunengil. Yeah. Yeah, people say that. Of course, some appans don't die very fast, They just linger on. Yeah. Oh, it's nice to have old people at home, I tell you. It's a joy. But, there comes a time when they cannot do anything and they become a trouble in many ways, because, the toilet and everything is the bed and everything has to be taken, and, you keep on doing it for how long? There is a time when you get tired. So it said, somebody told me that the God arranged it in such a way so that when they die you won't miss them. And the daughter-in-law is already tired. He was taking 5 times washing him, changing his clothes 5 times, and the soiled clothes are washing. So when it is done for a year or two, her only wish is that appachane kartavanga. So when he dies, there is not a heartbreak. So maybe the Lord, I don't know, but I know I miss my parents, of course, missing not the right thing to say that. Most every day I remember about something, because my father was a man of prayer. So he will pray about a dozen times at least a day, sometimes for hours he will pray. So I can hear him praying for me and crying for me and all that. Even I was a good boy. Still he was praying for me. So it's nice to have a father who prays. The value of parents when they are good praying for you and they are good examples, it's great. But if somebody is a drunkard and all, that's another story, Anyways, so the Malangara, the Abraham Malpan opposed Chatham. He said, I tell people, don't go for Chatham. You are a believer. You don't believe in this nonsense. And they have prayer for the dead, for their souls. That's what Chatham is basically. Praying for Lord have mercy on him. And then they will feed everybody, And all that thing, I don't want to call it a Hindu because they don't have that system, maybe, I don't know. But where it came from, I don't know. And also, he insisted, Abraham Alpan insisted that God must be worshipped in a language that people could understand. Now, what's the use of reading some prayer somebody wrote in the Syrian language? You write it down in the Malayalam letters and Syrian language, and you just read it, you don't know what you are saying it. Of course, God knows. A Malappuram Muslim was going to Saudi Arabia. He didn't know Hindi, he didn't know Arabic. So somebody asked him, you don't know the language, what will you do when you get there? How will you manage? He said, I have no problem. When I say in Malayalam, I know what I'm talking about. Right? If they don't know, that's their problem. So that's what these people saying. I don't know what I'm saying, but at least God knows what I'm saying, that sort of. So anyway, Abraham Alpan said, pray in Malayalam for God's sake. I say, you pray in a language that you know what you are saying. Just mumbling, there is no sense in it. So he conducted the first worship meeting in Maraman church, where he was, the priest there. And it became a major issue because he was still a member of the Orthodox Church. When you are a member of the Orthodox Church and you are training Orthodox priest, and without the approval of the bishop, you went and did things like this, man, you are inviting troubles. And I tell you, in making troubles, these Christian groups are not very generous. They will. So Abraham Malpan had no choice but to leave the Orthodox Church because they excommunicated him. They excommunicated not only him, but a few others also. So what he will do? Abraham Malpan made his brother's son, Matthews, as a bishop by sending him to Antioch, to the patriarch there, and he ordained him, gave him the name Matthews Mar Athanasius in 1843. So he made him the first bishop of the Marthoma Church. And then he made his own son also a bishop under the name Thomas Mar Athanasius in 1868, after another some 25 years, he made. Very soon many churches, actually sided with Malpan. There was court case, because one church has 100 people, families, 40 families wanted to go with Malpan to Marthoma Church, so what about the property? The Roman Catholics, all the property belonged to the bishop, the pope, all the property. There is no property. If you build a church at your own expense, church building, unless you write it and give it to the bishop, he will not sanctify it. You cannot conduct any meetings there. So in all over the world, all the properties belongs to the bishop. But in the Orthodox tradition, the properties belongs to the people. The people, The priests even don't have anything. The people, the families. So the properties belongs to the church buildings and all those things, schools and everything, they belong to the people. So when half of the people separate from a particular church, what about the property? This is our property too. So they have court cases, claiming for the property. Divide the property, give half to us. So that sort of. Or if the majority are moving, then say that the whole property is ours. You leave, the minority. So there were many cases, some he won, some he lost. So there were many Orthodox churches, he got, that became the Marthoma Church. And the thing is, actually all the families that came to the Marthoma Church were the cream of the Orthodox Church. They were the cream of the Orthodox. Because these people had a respect for Bible and they wanted the truth. Therefore, naturally, they were the cream of the crops. So, Marthoma Church didn't have any, anyone, who was not a good sheep to start with. One Gregson, a missionary from England, came to Kerala and he taught the priest of the Orthodox Church for a long time. He taught that child baptism is not biblical, that you have to take baptism after you are born again. So he was conducting classes, even now he is conducting classes in the Marthoma Church. Actually, Abraham Malpan was in favor of the believer's baptism, though the church did not make that changes, but the other bishops opposed. So Gregson was asked to go back. Actually, he came to preach at the Maraman convention. He preached for a few years. Then, because of his teachings, he said every believer is a priest. The Lord's Supper should be celebrated among born-again Baptist believers and so many things. So that means that it was almost going too. And of course, Gregson was a brother and missionary too. He's originally in England. So, they understood that these things are going very bad. Actually, one of the leading priests of the Marthoma church, is called Kumbhanat Achan. He accepted the teachings of Gregson. So he went and got baptized. He left the Marthoma church, and the first Brethren church was formed in Kerala, in Kumbhanad, and 4 people. 2 of them were from one family, the Kumbhanad family. My wife's grandfather was the first Brethren in Kerala. And this Kumbhanat Achan, called Maman. He was the second person. There were 2 other persons. So the first Brethren movement, they all came from the Marthoma church. The good thing or bad thing about the Brethren was that all the Brethren people came from the Marthoma church in the beginning. Basically all of them came. And the Marthoma church got the cream of the Orthodox. The Brethren got the cream of the Marthoma. And the Pentecostal movement just the other way. The Pentecostals all got in the beginning from the poor people. All the poor people. Nobody, no upper class man will join with them. Therefore, the Pentecostals had a bad name in the beginning, but that name changed. Now everybody, big, small, everybody goes to the Pentecostals. But there was a long time, Pentecostal was the church of the lower caste. But the Brethren was always the church of the upper caste. And that has created some problem too, because they are rich people and all that. They're so independent. They don't have the compassion that, they don't have any poor people they can support you. You have to have, the church must have poor, because the Lord said the poor you will always have. That's what the Lord said, the poor you will always. So if you don't have poor, then, you don't belong to that group that the Lord said, the poor you will always have. So that sort of a compassion they don't have, And if somebody happens to be poor in the Brethren church, they won't get any compassion necessarily. And of course, when the Brethren movement came, a lot of people from the backward community also believed because of the missionary movement, but they had separate meetings. The Syrian Christian, these are called the Syrian Christian Brethren, and the Vanilla Brethren, because that's the usual flavor everybody has, right? From the lower class, they had separate meetings. No, they cannot meet together. And they also didn't want it actually. They were, first day the missionaries started having together, but then they came and said that no, we don't want to worship the Syrian Christians, because they had the inferiority complex or whatever maybe. They said we are not comfortable. So they separated. So the Marthoma church, was a very strong church, and then the Marthoma church started what you call the, they call in Malayalam the Sushesha Prasanga Sangam. That means the gospel preaching, association. They conduct the Maharaman convention. Did any of you ever gone to Maharaman convention? You never gone to. Heard of it. But that's the largest convention in the world. The Keswick convention is larger only because of the number of people attend in 1 month. It lasts for 1 month. More people come. But at any given day at Maharaman, on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, maybe 500,000 people at least come. That's sit under the pandal and all that, so that's the largest, so-called meeting, Christian meetings in the world. So at least one day you must go. In the early days when it started, they were purely preaching the gospel, pure gospel, unadulterated gospel they were preaching. But last few years, you go there, One time if I'm in Kerala, I will go at least one day, because you get a chance to buy all Christian books. All Christian bookshops will have there, so you get, one man was preaching that you never have to tell anybody the name Jesus. You don't have to. You don't use the name Christian. A Hindu is a Christian. Rama is Christ. On Maharaman, where the Jesus Christ was exalted and preached from that platform, This sort of nonsense. So you can just see how much they have gone. They are part of the World Council of Churches and all that, so the ecumenical movement and all that have really diluted them. Yes. But Reformation in the beginning made many changes in the Marthoma Church. However, it stopped short of reaching the full Reformation. Many took baptism in the church under the influence of Gregson, etc., but the bishop excommunicated some of them. Some left the Marthoma Church. Others confused and didn't know what to do, So, you ever heard of a man called Mahagavi K.V. Simon? Yeah. No, he was a Marthomite man. He was a faithful Marthomite man, but he studied Bible and then, he took baptism and all. And then he not only took baptism, he taught about baptism. So he was called for, trial. So the priest who was in charge of the trial, asked him one question first, said that, did you take baptism, by immersion? So he asked back, this is for information you are asking, or is it a trial? He said, it's a trial. Then tell me first of all, what book is the basis of this trial? If they can answer Bible, because he will shake them. If they will ask and answer anything else, then again he will shake them. So, you have to answer. You don't have to ask I will answer, but I need to know from which book to answer. So you tell me that what is the basis of this trial? They say you are excommunicated. So he left and he started what is called the what they call them? Viyojana Prasthanam, means a separatist movement. After a few years, he had about 15-20 churches, and then he joined the Brethren. There was another man, equally famous or more famous, that his name is Kochugunjupadeshi, Muthambakal Kochugunjupadeshi, a great man who may have won more than 1 lakh souls. He also took baptism, Actually, Simon and they took baptism together, I think, more or less same time. May not be the same date, but same season. So he was also called for trial. And he confessed that, he has taken and I have taught against, but I will no more teach against. I will abide faithful to the teachings of the Marthoma Church. So he was forgiven and, so he remained in the Marthoma Church. So what happened actually? As I said, more than 100,000 souls may have been won by Kochugunjupadeshi, but what happened to all those souls? Many of them remained in some in the Catholic Church, some in the Orthodox Church, some in the Marthoma Church, some nowhere. But the people that Simon had won, they were all baptized and they all separated, So when we don't take a stand on separation, our labor is never going to, bring fruit. That's a major lesson that had been taught, Of course, Kochugunjupadeshi was a great man, and I have some of his genes because he was my mother's uncle. He was a great preacher, and I remember him, my earliest memory. When I was 3 years old, he's sitting in his lap. He is cutting sugar cane into small pieces and putting in my mouth. I can still remember. So I said the sweetest memory of a great man, but he didn't have the courage, backbone to stand for the truth, Yes. Today the Marthoma Church is very large with 12 dioceses, 13 bishops, 997 priests, 1,200 churches and 15 million, 1.5 crore believers. So it's a pretty large, pretty large segment. Yes. The Brethren movement started in Ireland. It's at its capital, Dublin, in 1825. A man called Edward Cronin, he was a dentist, a royal dentist. He worked for the quote, who upon studying himself the Bible came to the conclusion that the Roman Catholic Church was unbiblical. Even the Anglican Church was unbiblical. He felt that, he understood that every believer is a priest, therefore does not need another priest to break bread. Born again baptized believers could meet together and break bread, because Paul said, that which I received from the Lord give over to you, the church, not to the priest, not to the elders even. It is given to the believers, therefore he believed. So he met with some other like-minded believers and started breaking bread in the house of one Edward Wilson. And this Edward Wilson remained a member of an independent church. So Cronin disagreed. Cronin said, if you break bread here, then you cannot go and participate in the mass there also. You choose one or the other.
That also in his house.
Yes, that also in his house. So actually Wilson continued as a member, therefore Cronin moved from the house. In 1827, one Hutchinson met with Cronin and worship was shifted to Hutchinson's house. A man called J.N. Darby, ever heard of him? Yes, J.N. Darby, J.J. Bellett, Lord Cogleton, etc., they all joined there for breaking of bread. Some of the members maintained their membership in the early denomination. So it was decided in a meeting that only those who break away from all the denominations could break bread here. So again there was problem. A number of people left, only 4 left. They were members of that one. The following week 4 members came and J.N. Darby met with them, and J.N. Darby is then considered that he was a leader of the Brethren movement, because he was a genius. Darby was no ordinary man. He was a gold medalist in classical languages of Latin, Hebrew and Greek from the Oxford University. He was a great scholar. He was a lawyer. Yes, there's a Darby's Bible, one of the best English Bible. He translated Bible into German, French, English and then Italian, 4 languages. And he traveled all over the world. He started by his own labor started about 1,200 churches all over the world. People don't like Darby actually, because Darby is they say Darby has a caustic personality. What is caustic personality? Ever sodium chloride, what is caustic soda, it's, you taste it, it's not, you spit it out, that sort of. He was very strong. He disagreed on things, He was a man, one cut, 2 pieces, There is no gray area in him. It's black or white. So because of that one, many people disagreed with him. He won't make allowances that way. So what happened at the early beginning of the Brethren movement, a major division took place between J.N. Darby and a few other people like one Miller and others, and George Mueller and all these great men. The division. J.N. Darby went to what is today known as the exclusive brethren. Others went to the open brethren. For good or for bad, the exclusive brethren divided 11 more times. So Darby's attempt was blessed. It divided on every little thing. They will disagree, they will divide. Yes. The open brethren never had a division, because the open brethren allowed people, even members of other churches, to come and break bread with them. If you are a born again baptized believer who maintain clear life, and then because they say that it is a Lord's table, not our table, so you cannot keep people away on unnecessary reasons. So
assembly in the West compared to
The Brethren Assembly in the West is very open. Kerala Brethren are very closed. Actually, I think the Kerala Brethren are exclusive Brethren. I mean, they don't call themselves exclusive, but that is what it is. I think the early missionaries who came from England may have some exclusive tendencies, and therefore, and of course the Marthomite people who, came out, and they also had tendency, of separation. Even this Maman Kashisha, who was one of the starting founding members of the Brethren movement, he separated from the other three very shortly, because he said that all the properties in India of the Brethren must be handled by Indian believers. No property can be handled by foreigner. We Indians are educated, we have the ability, why should they own? But of course, the missionaries who brought money from abroad, they invest the money, they start schools, orphanages, hospitals. They are not readily going to give everything to the hands of the local. Of course, they gave, so they have disagreement, and therefore he went away and formed the Syrian Brethren. That's what the other is called simply the Brethren. He started the Syrian Brethren.
Now it is there?
No, the Syrian Brethren are gone. They're all Brethren now. I know my father's father was Brethren, and my mother's father was Syrian Brethren. I remember. Yes. So very interesting. My father and mother were married, officiated by this Maman Gashisha, So it was the brethren from the Syrian Brethren, that marriage. But now only brethren are there. Holy Brethren. K.V. Simon has influenced these people. From the Viyojita Prasthanam, Simon later united with the Brethren, and he brought the teaching of no ornaments for Christians and all, teaching by him. That became, this is only for Kerala Christians. All over the world, Christians use moderate ornaments. It's a matter of Christian freedom. If you don't want, you have to use. You don't have to use. If you want, you can use, but use moderately. But the K.V. Simon insisted that no ornaments, and therefore that became the standard. That became the sign of separation of the Brethren from others. The Pentecostals came out, in Kerala Pentecostals came out of the Brethren. K. Abraham was a Brethren, he came out and started the Pentecostal. Therefore that doctrine was carried over. So in Kerala, you are a fundamental, very saintly Christian if you don't have any ornament. This become it's a kind of a symbol of Brethrenism, that we don't wear ornaments. And they think that if you don't have ornaments, you are a very spiritual person, You can wear 50,000 rupees worth sari, but you cannot have 100 rupee worth gold, that sort of. So, today, of course, the younger generation, they have understood the hypocrisy of all that. So they start wearing some, But anyway, the Brethren movement, they spread. Some of the greatest scholars in the world were produced by the Brethren. As F. Bruce was known, the greatest scholar who lived in the 20th century was a Brethren man, William Kelly was one of the greatest scholars, William Kelly. And there is a chair for William Kelly. William Kelly is chair in the University of Oxford. William Kelly's chair, So he was a great scholar. There were many, Samuel Tregelles was a great New Testament, Greek scholar. He has a Tregelles Greek Bible. Everybody respect him. Respect him to the extent that when Greek scholars differ, Tregelles' view is always right. That's a saying. What does Tregelles say? That's the right thing, because he was such a respectable scholar. The Brethren have turned out very many. But the Brethren in Kerala is a different matter. They somehow lost the respectability because of, extreme separatism, that sort of thing. So that problem is there. Anyway, we'll stop here at 10 o'clock. And well, basically, only Pentecostals I have to touch, and that next class we'll basically kind of cover this, wind this up, and then I will be gone for a few weeks, and then come back and you decide what you want. Brother suggested that maybe once a month, Saturday whole day, instead of, if that's